Welcome back to Massive Meats. Today's massive meat is my 9.5 pound butt. Is my 9.5 pound pork butt. AKA a Boston butt, AKA a pork shoulder. Let's get something out of the way. Pork butt is not from the butt of the pig, it's from the shoulder. A ham actually is from the butt of a pig. What's awesome about pork butt is it's got a lot of great muscular tissue, but it's surrounded with a bunch of amazing fat. That fat is going to render down, it's going to get juicy, and it's going to make for a phenomenal pan and batch of pulled pork. Today we're going to start rubbing this butt with this High Mountain Seasonings garlic pepper rub. We've used this before. It's salt, it's pepper, it's garlic. It's great. Very good blend of flavors. We're actually going to add a little extra pepper, a little extra salt after, because we want it to get a nice thick crust. And then we're going to finish it off with some paprika to help give it that nice deep red color. And again, you're going to use a heavy coat here because this is a big piece of meat, so you've got plenty of room to work with. It's pretty forgiving. Nice heavy coat. Get all sides. Big piece of meat, 9.5 pounds. Now the plan for the smoker today is to get it up to 275 degrees, and that's where we're going to stay for the day. For phase one, we're going to put this butt out there, and it's going to go for about 5 hours. That 5 hours is going to be plenty of time for those smoke flavors to settle in there. We're talking about hickory and cherry blend today. Those flavors will get in there in that 5 hours, and then after that, once it's got that nice crust, it's got the colors we're looking for, we can then go ahead, bring it on inside, wrap it up in butcher paper, not foil, butcher paper. And then once it's wrapped in the butcher paper, we'll take it back out, set it on the smoker, and it'll go until it hits the internal temperature. We're going to put a probe thermometer in it until it hits that internal temperature of about 200 to 205 degrees. You get to 205, you know that this pork is going to pull. All right, so that's enough of the High Mountain seasoning. Roll it around a little bit, get some of that that's left over on the board there. We're going to add a little bit of extra pepper here. Again, this helps build up that crust, the extra pepper, the extra salt. And one of the things you might notice is in some of the difference of the colors on this meat. This side, I don't know if you can hear the dog running in the background with a ball, but this side here is your fat side, which is why it has more of a whiter tone to it. The rest is more your meat side. We're going to end up cooking with this fat side down. And I'm going to take a second. We're going to wash my hands, and then we're going to add more salt. All right, we're back with some clean gloves, and now we're just going to add that second layer of salt to it. Again, we already have salt in that rub. Don't need a ton more, but this extra salt, again, we're going to build up that crust with it. And don't be afraid of using too much, because it is a big piece of meat. When you pull it, that seasoning is going to get all within the insides of it. It's going to get spread around, so don't worry about it. Clearly, I'm making a gigantic mess the way I'm putting all the rub on, because I'm using plenty. Use whatever you think is going to fit your taste. Get this final side here. And now just a light dusting of paprika across the board. And the paprika gives you that nice red, deep color that you're looking for when it comes off the smoker. Obviously, you're getting a lot of that from the smoke itself, but the paprika gives it that extra pop, that a little extra richness in that red. We're all set. The smoker's sitting just a notch over 275. It's sitting at 280 right now. That's perfect. Anywhere from 250 to 300 with a pork butt's going to be all right. I'm going to aim for the higher end. to be at that 275 mark because this is a bigger pork butt and it's gonna take quite a while. Let's get it out onto the smoker. We've had this pork butt on here for 5 hours now. That's had plenty of time to soak up that smoke flavor from the hickory, from the cherry woods. It's had time to form a really good bark. Let's pop it open and get a look at it. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So we formed a really good bark here. You can see it. It's still nice and moist. It's not dried up at all. I mean, this is exactly how you want it to look. You even have a little bit of drawback from the meat to the bone over here. We're definitely on our way to where we want to be. And so what we want to do at this point is get it off the smoker, wrap it up in some of this butcher paper here. And you got to be real careful taking this off. I've got the hand savers underneath, which are basically gloves under the glove, so I'm able to grab that hot meat without it hurting too badly. So we've got it onto the board. Let's go ahead and get it wrapped. Now the reason we use butcher paper instead of using something like a foil is we want this to absorb a little bit of those juices, right? We want to maintain this bark, this nice crisp outside. We want to hold on to that. If we were to put this in foil, we would lose some of that because it would steam a little bit. With the butcher paper, it absorbs a lot of that and you get to maintain that bark. It doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be fancy. Then what we're going to do is we'll take our probe thermometer, find a good spot in here, stick that down on into the meat. Looks like that meat's sitting right now at about 151 degrees. We want this to climb itself all the way up to 200, 205. If you get to 205, no doubt will you have yourself some amazing pulled pork. So right back onto the smoker it goes, paper and all. Your paper's not going to catch fire, it's not going to burn. It's going to be just fine. From here, we're going based on temperature, not time. It might take an hour and a half, it might take 2.5 hours. Once the thermometer hits that 205 degree mark, that's when we know it's absolutely done and ready to go rest inside. It's been 2.5 hours since we last checked in. Our probe thermometer that was giving us that internal temperature read was beeping that it was at 205 degrees, which is exactly where we wanted it before we brought it in. We even checked it with an instant read thermometer to poke around and make sure it was sitting right at that exact number, which it was, 204, 205, 206, anywhere in that range. One of the awesome things you can do to test to make sure it's also ready beyond the temperature is as you're poking in with that probe thermometer, you can feel that it's soft, there's no resistance. It's almost like poking into a stick of butter, which tells you this pulled pork is going to be phenomenal. So now what we need to do is take this pork butt and we're gonna put it into an empty dry cooler and let it rest for an hour and a half, which is gonna let those juices all come back into that meat and really stay there so that by the time we pull it, it's very juicy, it holds all that moisture, and again, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Now the first 10 minutes of this, you're gonna leave it in this empty dry cooler with no lid on it just so a little bit of that steam can blow off. After that, put the lid on, let it go for an hour and a half. After that, it'll be time to pull. The pork butt has had an hour and a half to rest. That's exactly what you want. You want those juices to absorb back into the meat. Now we get to unwrap it and see what it's done after all this time. Obviously that butcher paper, a lot of juices on it. That's okay, and that's a good thing because what that means is it's allowed us to keep and maintain our bark, because otherwise we would lose some of that. You can tell this thing is tender. I can still feel it. Oh wow. Wow, that's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Let's pull this thing up out of here. Let's get that paper out of the way. Set that to the side. This pork butt is gorgeous. Obviously, we still have a lot of our bark here. It's all maintained intact. It's juicy. It's amazing. Also, what's amazing is this cutting board from HaleyHome.com. They do wonderful work. Please check them out. Use code MASSIVE at checkout for 15% off. Let's get it off the board and let's pull this thing into the pan. I mean, you can feel it already kind of coming apart here. The bone we want to pull on out. I mean, that's as good as it gets, right? We take that right out. There's no meat left on it. We know this thing's going to pull perfectly. Just squeezing with the gloves, you can see the way this meat is pulling. The juices are still in it. That resting time has been key to this. And we knew this was going to be this way because we hit that 205 perfectly. I mean, look at that coloration. You can tell the smoke got in there. You can tell we built up a good crust, a good bark on it. So a quick summary of what we did today. We seasoned up this 9.5 pound massive meat, this pork butt, with salt, with pepper, with a little bit of garlic from it. We add some extra salt, some extra pepper to really form a good crust. We put it on the smoker, 275. We let it go for 5 hours. We let it soak in that smoke flavor. After those 5 hours were up, we took it off the smoker, wrapped it up in butcher paper, stuck our probe thermometer in it, put it back on the smoker, and we waited until that came to 205 degrees internal meat temperature, brought it back on in, stuck it in a dry cooler, let it sit for an hour and a half, let the juices calm down, settle down, get back into that meat, keep it nice and juicy. Took it on out. We were able to pull that bone right out of there, and we were left with some amazing pulled pork. I've got to give it a taste. That's the only thing left to do. I'm going to get this nice piece of bark with a nice piece of meat inside. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right. I've got a lot more of this to eat. It's amazing. Definitely getting the salt and the pepper and the garlic. Definitely getting those wood smoke flavors on into it. This is quite delicious. You can make tacos out of this. We're going to do some pulled pork sandwiches. It's, again, one of my favorite things to make. And it's not too hard to do. You now can do it at home on any smoker you've got. Feel free to take the recipe, make it your own. While you're here, I want to say thank you for sticking around the whole way through the video, for watching it. If you enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. It does mean a lot. We are new to this. We're getting better every time. We're getting better as we go in how we make the videos, and we would appreciate your support. And we'll see you on the next one.